Yo, what up? Weekly update for week 5. Starting with something fun. I started Ghost of Yotai. It's pretty good. I got my cat might make noise. She was making noise outside, but Ghost of Yotai, like I only got like between 5 and 10 hours in it, and what I like about it is it's very like punchy. Like you're constantly doing stuff. There aren't really long story sections, and they've kind of incorporated the um, some of the things from Red Dead. I think like you'll see like smoke in the distance, so you can just like randomly go in that direction, and there'll be something going on there. Anyway, yeah, fun. Combat's cool. I don't have it on the hardest level. I have it one level down. I think playing the first. I don't know. Maybe if I on the hardest level you get hit once and you're dead. But maybe if I put it there, I'll get real good, real fast. Hold on, I'm just hold my cat. She's trying to get out. Let's see how's she doing. Anyway, that's Ghost of Yotai. I have a friend over, which has um, which the past week took up just extra time. You know, they're jet lagged. They're staying here for another week or two, and I guess that rolls into I think what I have tagged for number one here. Doing, I'll try doing these tags again. Um, but the week leading up to my friend getting here, I drank a couple times, which got the habits off. Then they got here, and the habits just stayed. I put off in air quotes up until yesterday. I rebooted them. Uh, reboot. Got all this funny language, and doing that internal family systems work. One of the characters or parts I discovered was attain maintain. Attain maintain is the like structure, likes making systems, and it's basically that part who briefly existed consciously in my mind created the Casey Abbott Payne Milltown Kid split. Well, and this is, I guess I'm thinking about this in real time. Uh, I had kind of put the being really kind of disciplined, that attain maintain thought, I put it into the Casey Abbott Payne persona. And what I want to say is this past week where things have been chaotic and I've been off, that's all from the perspective of the part of me that wants, go to bed every day at the same time, do the same thing every morning, etc. And in the last video, maybe I mentioned pushing against that kind of thought because I saw it as being kind of colonial thought, everything being ordered like that. But sometime, I think during last week, maybe I didn't share that thought last week, but sometime during that last week, I realized that I realized that what I was labeling colonial is, I can be neutral about it, but I also realized being off with my habits isn't really off. I do remember last week saying the dynamically switching, so I got to feel that all last week, where some things I did well, some things I didn't. And I think what the important thing to me was is that I'd be able to bring them back to a baseline where if, forget all the habits, one habit that's just good for everyone, everywhere, 100% of the time is sleeping well. So, at minimum, if there's no other habits I'm doing what I need to do to get enough sleep. Yeah, so anyway, I'm having this like it's funny. I would call it a battle in the past, but a conversation with how do I stay, disciplined, but then have flexibility within that discipline. And then I guess from there, I'm looking at this last thing. Maybe I'll. Where am I at now? We're gonna move through this. We're gonna move through this quickly. The So I guess like a part of me, the discipline versus what I was calling chaos, but it's not really chaos. It's just like a different. Chaos can be chaos, but a different kind of discipline will look chaotic to someone who's like, you know, their discipline is maybe like more focused, more not more focused, like more rigid. Like there's fluid discipline that looks like it's undisciplined to the person who's more interested in like rigid discipline. And I mentioned it a little bit already, where I was like kind of going against in my mind what I saw was like colonizer style discipline, and thinking the opposite of that was chaos. But then I came around to a whole different way of thinking, where if we look at the entire system of colonialism, capitalism, imperialism, well, but before looking at the whole system, just looking, you probably speak English, and you're in an English speaking place, and basically everywhere where English, I mean, English or not, everywhere is like this to different degrees. But what I was saying is that the kind of the disciplined, kind of colonized philosophy and thought is actually chaotic, but they hide the chaos with rigidity, with strict, you know. So then when you see these pockets, large or small, that look chaotic, sometimes they may be chaotic, but sometimes they're ordered. They're a part of a different kind of order. Like the first thing that came into my mind, and I didn't want to say this is true, but the January 6th event where Trump supporters, stormed the Capitol, and that looks, looks very chaotic. But when you think about what it took to do that, which was more than just Trump saying, "Go do that," you had many different. There's a lot of different kind of oil. I'm not trying to say it was a good thing. I guess I'm looking at it kind of neutrally. I guess in that case, it's like kind of colonial thought clashing with colonial thought. But there was a kind of order there still that looked chaotic. But then I'm thinking about protests and all kinds of things that are like pushing against a system that claims to not be chaotic, a system that claims with rule of law and violence from the state, like whether it's the state actually does violence or violence will happen if you go against the state. They do all this stuff to look like they're maintaining order and maintaining peace, but like there's chaos. There's chaos going on in people's minds. There's chaos going on in people's family and relationships. But then like a lot of that chaos, I think, is just in people's minds, and then it comes out in weird ways. So, and then I have here indigenous versus colonialism as, I guess just maybe like now I'm thinking in real time, but maybe I'm just seeing kind of the order in many different systems. There's order there, but when the main system is based on kind of rigid discipline, flexible discipline looks chaotic. And that's kind of like I was applying that more for myself and how I'm like being dynamic with habits. But all systems. Yeah, I'm even thinking of the definition of chaos. I don't know that people can even organize in a chaotic manner. And that, I guess that'll come back to what I have here is my actually no, I'm gonna jump ahead with my points. What do I got there? 3 and 4. Yeah, we'll jump ahead. So this one's 3 now. Where are we at with the time? 10 0. I'm gonna do 10:08 there, right there. Got a little 108. Got a little 108 energy in the video. I kind of wore this shirt. Maybe I've worn it before, but it looks kind of chaotic. Um, and I had this discussion with Gemini about my kind of idea for how to reorder the world. But reordering the world will take time and generations, I'm sure. Maybe there's a way there could be deep reordering in a single generation, but I don't think so. And if that is possible, it would probably look extremely violent. That, like, just because people in power don't want to let go of power. But as I was talking to Gemini, I'm talking to Gemini about Marxism, socialism, communism, black Marxism, black, like all this kind of stuff, and having it explain it to me. And I'm like, nah, I don't like that. And then I explain my whole kind of my new, not new, but like the idea I have, the plan I have. And I'll explain the plan. It's pretty basic. It's, first there's one person, and then there's two people. One person, like, just kind of refining themselves and working on having more resources available to then help some other people. And those resources can be money, or it can be like mental resources, skill share, whatever. The main resource I'm developing is kind of the habit based resource, and a habit based resource that isn't about just making, these are about making habits to help you have a better life inside of the capitalist colonialist framework, which I'll probably say every video is antagonistic to you. It doesn't want you to be happy and healthy. And then not only does it not want you to be happy and healthy, the things it kind of convinces you to do aren't really the things for happiness and health. So, I'm making habits for that. And then I'll share those habits with other people, habits, routines, whatever. Share it with more and more people. But some of those people making tight connections with, like tight, like family tight. And the people I make those family tight connections with, working to just develop a different universe inside of the capitalist, colonialist, white supremacist universe. So making a different universe, like a bubble inside of that. And in this universe, it just operates. It operates the way I believe the new world should operate, the way the world right now should operate. You make a bubble, and then you help people make other bubbles, and I'll use that with my 108 system and what I'm calling revolutionary habits. I'm pretty sold on that. I like it. And so yeah, you make these bubbles. You make the bubble. You connect the bubbles. You generate more power and resource inside of the bubbles, but power and resource outside of the bubbles too, in capitalist ways. And that's it. And you just link it up. What the main idea is, do what you can to live in the world you want to live in, like right now. Like, don't wait, because it's not, that world isn't coming. You have to create it. You and friends and family, which I'll just call, family, but this is like extended family that you choose. Anyway, that's my thought. Doing that. And I'm explaining this to Gemini as I'm like not like vibing with any of these things, and it's like, oh, you're an anarchist. And I'm like, anarchist? What? But then, yeah, I didn't know what anarchy is. I thought anarchy was just like chaotic, you know, just protesting, just doing things to try to take down the government, whatever. And there are like anarchists who, are, very passionate, and probably for good reasons. I'm not tapped into what it means to be an anarchist. I'm not even saying I'm 100% an anarchist, but one of those things, like, so I know, I feel weird saying the word anarchist, but like I get the I know the fucking, like, the chaotic part of anarchy. But I didn't know about the organized part. I didn't know about, the mutual aid. I've heard that word before, but mutual aid is, I think it's essentially taking what resources you and your community have, and sharing them and working together. That's anarchy. Anarchy is, like, collaborating really well and really tightly with a small group of people. That's anarchy. And then anarchy, like, I guess the kind of overarching theme is making communities and organizations that are more flat, or I think for the extreme version of anarchy, it's like super flat, in that isn't hierarchy. And I don't think hierarchy is necessarily bad, but it's bad when it's, you know, used to coerce or oppress people, right? You're a person in capitalism, you are coerced into working or doing something, so you have a place to stay and you have food to eat. That's a kind of this subtle coercion where, yeah, you're forced to participate, because if you don't, you have a fear of that kind of life. So anyway, like, it looks like I am an anarchist, though. It does, like, it looks like that's what I'm about. I had already decided, like, I don't think I'm fucking with elections and stuff anymore. I'm not putting any energy into that. I'm not putting any energy into voting. I'm going to do capitalist things to generate money in the capitalist world, as I collaborate with other people and we build, strong networks. Like, we're gonna do things, to, you have to, but then it, like, inside of the, like, we'll be doing that to create a new, like, you could say, almost utopian world underneath that. And then, yeah, sharing that, how to do that with others. Yeah, I won't go deep into anarchy, but what I will say. Okay, I'll add something else. I um I still consider myself a Pan Africanist, but Pan Africanism usually, like, not usually, just isn't about anarchism at the same time. And I'm kind of thinking, I'm like, oh, I think I'm a Pan African anarchist. And the Pan African part, like, is usually about, it's about a lot of things, but I'll tell you the part it is for me is, I think the real fight to flip capitalism kind of exists in Africa, in that that's where so many resources are being extracted, from post-colonial forces, and neo-colonial forces, many of them which are the post-colonial forces, but also including China, which, uh, you know, does their work with economically. Um, but it seems like that's where the real kind of fight to flip, so to speak, capitalism would take place, just because Africa as a continent controls so many resources. But then it's hard that I don't even know how many people are on the continent of Africa, which is funny, because I know how many people are in India, I know how many people are in China, because this gets pumped into me constantly. Um, but I think some Pan Africanists like the idea of making a super, like the United States of Africa or something like that. But I'm against using that as a framework. I'm against using capitalism as a framework. Like, I'm not. I don't think, you're definitely not going to get rid of capitalism by just making all the faces of capitalism black. Like, you still have to coerce, you still have to extract, uh, resources from, oppressed people. But anyway, yeah, Pan-African anarchist. Let me try to move through these quickly. I don't know why I had that. Oh, I got that at number 4. Like, just real quick, I'll just say this quickly. I don't know. Oh, I know why. Okay, like the weekly recap is for me, not for the videos. I'm not putting this together, so I'm putting numbers on things that don't need numbers. Like, this is a work in progress. I'm figuring it out. I'm figuring it out. I just have a small note on there, and this is connected to what I'm saying about being dynamic with discipline. So being dynamic with discipline doesn't mean I'm always fluid. It means I can go from being, I'll just use strict. I can go from being strict, and strict discipline, and I can move to fluid discipline, like just kind of on demand. So whenever it makes sense, and then I need a system for that. My system can't be just for when I'm um, being strict. I also need systems for when it's more fluid, and then I need systems that take me from fluidity back to strictness. And I just have like one of those things is, and I don't think I'll do it every week, but I can do like a mini retreat of sorts where starting Sunday night, I do a 36-hour fast. So I fast from Sunday night to Tuesday morning. Tuesday, I have a nice breakfast, and then I go up to the hot springs. And then I just like the hot springs are great, no phone, no nothing. You're just in hot water with a bunch of old men. I come out of the hot springs. I can like do a deeper journaling session just to check in with where I'm at. So that would be kind of like an example of having a strict dynamic system where there's like I don't use it every week, but if I'm like, oh, I need to use this to kind of like reset, I have like a strict way of resetting. You get what I'm saying. Anyway, I guess that was ended up being okay. Um, where do I want to stop? I see the 108 here. I guess. Oh yeah, maybe time. Maybe my time rant is always at the bottom of. So I'll do this one 3. Oh, that ended up being 4. Oh, I'm back on 5. Okay, and I guess this is 6 now. I don't know what's going on. Um, I should have started this at 108, 2250. Um, Cult of the 108. I don't know if that'll be the name of the book, but I think I'm gonna write a relatively short book. I'm gonna lean on fucking AI a lot, um, just to the vision I have for you know changing the world, where it's like uh, where I'm a seed. I'm planting a seed, and I'm gonna grow this tree that bears fruit. The tree that bears fruit is a very strong community, like community that almost I think maybe just doesn't exist inside of a city um, kind of setup. Like I know there are communes where people make these kind of like tightly connected communities, and I plan on doing something like that in the future. But in the present, making these tight communities, I talked about it already, and then using the tree to seed other communities. And there's a book that I have to read before I write my book. It keeps coming up in Gemini. My mom has mentioned it. I don't know how to pronounce it properly. I think it's Parable of the Sower, by Octavia Butler. In that book, like a young girl, I think, basically starts kind of like a new religion. And speaking of seed, I think it's called Earth Seed or something. Not sure. But that ends up coming up as anytime I explain what I'm trying to do to Gemini, it just brings up that book, and then I ask for other examples, and it really doesn't have other examples. So I basically want to do the same thing. Build this tight community. The community, makes a community center just for doing community stuff, or buys a building so people can live together in a communal way. You know, the first like major hub is in Taipei. People come from over the world to like see it and learn it in real time. But like also everything I do leading up to that, meetings or whatever, which makes me realize I need to kind of record some of the stuff I have going on, is open source and freely available. And I walk people through how to do it. I walk people through the legal setup that we used here, but like knowing that if you're not in Taiwan, the legal setup you would use would be different. But knowing this one would give you an idea. You know, all the stuff, and then these places pop up all over, and then they get networked together, and then over time flip capitalism, and then maybe the so Cult of the 108 and this, like, I'm just talking about writing a work of fiction that's really my vision of the future, and how the small things I'm doing now, how I plan on them cascading into big things later. And I kind of want to just write that book so I can, like, my mom can read it. Like so much of what I write, like my blog posts, like, so I want my mom to be able to read this before she's gone. So that's a project that I'll probably start relatively soon, but I got to read that other book first. And finally, do I have all this time? Yeah, I don't know why I have this checked off. Well, I'll explain it momentarily. I guess this is a short video compared to, I'll just put 27 minutes. Um, so, I've been talking about, I guess this is worth, I've been talking about not shaman time, indigenous time, and how it, like, is opposed to colonial time. Colonial time being a monolith where it's the same everywhere. Same seconds, same hours, same calendar, same days, everywhere on Earth. There are other calendars people use, but the dominant calendar is not the Julian calendar. I think that's what came. I don't remember the name of the calendar. I don't care. And then indigenous time, and it's it's a little strange using the word indigenous time, because there are thousands and thousands of different indigenous groups, or there were, they've been wiped out, or they've lost their culture. But each of the groups, it's not like they all have the same concept of time. Each group has different concepts of time, probably largely based on where they were, how the land works where they were, or the animals, or I don't know exactly where it comes from, but it's not a monolith. It's not the same. Indigenous time isn't the same kind of time. There is probably many indigenous cultures have a belief like this, that time is all happening right now, right? There's no past, there's no future, there's only the present. And because there's only the present, you have access to your ancestors, you have access to all these different things. And I guess speaking, I was just going to use, I'll wrap up on Cult of the 108, but I'll use, I have to write the blog post for this, but I guess I could, like, I have something written already and I could just put it on YouTube, but whatever, I'll write the blog. But I had this funny experience where I made a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles meme, and then I'm cleaning out these bags, and I found I didn't know I had this. My mom gave me this letter that I wrote in like 1990 or 1989, 1980 something, where I'm asking my grandma for Christmas presents. And there was just two things. I wanted a Game Boy, and and Ninja Turtles. I was a simple man. A Game Boy and Ninja Turtles. A simple guy. And I found that letter, and then I keep going through the bag. Hold on. Hold on. And I find this Ninja Turtle, my favorite, Leonardo, the leader of the group, transform from the something with the ninja goop. I can't remember. Remember that ninja rap song? So I make this Turtles meme. I find this letter. I find Leonardo. And then there might have been another thing that happened after this, but it was like all these weird all these weird things happening like just right in that moment. This thing from deep in the past, uh, this thing from the present, which was the meme, and then this guy, I guess, was also from the past, but not nowhere near as far back as the other thing. And it I had just read about this idea of time. Oh, that was the that was the other thing. Maybe that was the last thing. Hold on. I like that pause button. I have this mystical shaman oracle deck. I really like oracle decks. I don't think I'm messing with tarot anymore, just because I'll mess with it a little bit. But tarot's more like rigid than an oracle deck. But then I write in my journal. I write blah blah blah. Oh, that's what like I realized I made a shift from using indigenous time to shaman time. And then shaman time, I could do a whole thing on the Tao Te Ching and Taoism, kind of coming from shamanism, and then my view that you and individuals are basically shamans for themselves in the modern era. So then, like, shaman time is kind of like my individual time. And then I don't know what name I would give time. Because indigenous, like, that's not what it is. But well, I would give time as a group form. Or I have like, I was calling it dream and flow time for the 108. But anyway, I didn't even talk about this. Did I say this already? I pull this card. I'm journaling about time, and I pull this card, like Time Master. And it was like the turtles, the Time Master. Like I wrote Shaman Time, and that made me think of this deck. And I'm like, let me pull a card randomly, Time. And I'm like, whoa, what's going on? Um, and the idea, like, so it's, I think it's easy to see I think it's easy for someone to be like, oh, I can see how the past is here, and I obviously see how the present is here because you're in it right now. How is the future here? Like, where's the future? And I'm not going to answer that question with logic right now, but like, and I'll probably use this in Cult of the 108, and I'll end here. Again, I don't know if the book is going to be called Cult of the 108, but maybe. But during my last major manic episode, where I'm like flipping between Casey Abbott Payne, Milltown Kid, and Milltown Kid Z, the story became that for me, this is my internal universe that I was experiencing, is that Milltown Kid Z was actually from the future. So I would like, I'd put on certain gear and I'd move through space as a representative of the future in the present. And then, you know, okay, I said I wouldn't give you a logical answer for that, but when let's use Steve Jobs, since he's big and you might be watching this on an iPhone. Like, now, colonial time doesn't see it this way. They see it, the past is in the past, the present is now, The future is in the future. But when someone like Steve Jobs, just using the perfect, one of the colonial capitalist avatars, like everything that's happening right now, with his company and everything, he basically saw the future, right? Like, it doesn't mean that he saw, like, he could predict exactly what would happen, but there's a future that he saw in the present, connected to the past, that he moved through. And, you know, like, yeah, I'll leave it there. Like, you have some idea of the short term future anyway, where, when you're going to wake up tomorrow, where you're going to go, etc. And some people cultivate, like, I have a very long future um, kind of vision. And yeah, so they all these factors are just playing together right now. They're all connected, and it's like there's no present either, right? You're living the future. I don't know exactly how it works. Yeah, I had just read it, but then I had all the Ninja Turtle stuff happen, and I'm like, that's crazy. That's crazy. So, time, man. All right. Oh, and then I'll show you my. I think I'm gonna sign off my videos with. If I figure out something better, then I'll do that. But right now, me and Gemini came up with a handshake. I kind of like it, where like two people would come together and say build systems and share power. So build systems, share power. Uh, I think that's, if that phrase changes, the idea behind this phrase won't. So it's like, and then I don't know how to do it by myself. Build. There we go. Build systems, share power. And the idea is build personal systems, share that power to help other people build personal systems. You and the people you share with make collective systems. Use the power you generate to share with individuals and share with other collectives. As other collectives come up, the collectives come together and build systems. And then those collectives come together and make uh, help other collectives grow, and other collectives make network of collectives, and then those network of collectives come together. You see what I'm saying? You see what I'm saying? Anyway, build systems, share power. Guess I'm throwing the peace in there still. Peace.